Sure, this is working okay. Seems to be. Hi, YouTube. Hello. Hello. We are back. We are back for more story time. We are back for more story time. All right. So we've been going already for about an hour over on Twitch. So if you are someone who has stumbled across this VOD on YouTube, my main streaming platform is over on Twitch, so make sure to check that out. If you're interested in catching the rest of the stream, which includes just kind of like hanging out and chatting, generally in like a ASMR cozy quiet vibes. You got your Kool-Aid? Let's roll. Hell yeah. All right, let me also, sorry, and that's why I do the tongue clicking. Okay, I'm putting up the pinned comment of the book that we're reading, which we are jumping back into the Odyssey. Let me pop that into the YouTube chat as well and pin it over there. Oh yes, I do crack my fingers a lot. Sorry about that. Sorry. And a reminder for those on Twitch that yes, I do stream this portion of our stream over on the first YouTube channel that's linked there. That one's for reading. The second link in that comment is for the ASMR channel. And if you have not dropped a subscribe over there, aka the free option over there, that would mean the world and be so helpful. And also, if you're able to open that up, even if you're staying in the Twitch chat, for chatting and channel points and things, if you're able to open up the YouTube stream in another window or some such, that helps so much with accruing watch hours, which is something that I'm working on, hoping to get into the YouTube partner program this year. So, yes, very much appreciated anyone who's able to do that. Hi, Ilk. Hi, Red Sea. Hello, hello. Yes, huge thank you to anyone who is able to help out with those YouTube watch hours. Hi, Fidge. Hello. Now, we are diving back into the Odyssey, and last time, which was on Sunday, was our last reading, was our first time actually seeing the character of Odysseus. Which is kind of crazy. We are about to start book 8. So if you would like to read along with me, then the translation that we are using, which is the one by Samuel Butler, is linked in both the YouTube chat and the Twitch chat, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, it should be in the description box. We are reading that version, except that Samuel Butler changed the names to the Roman names, and we have changed them back to the Greek names. But otherwise, it's the same translation that is linked there. One Man Arm, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Hello. How's it going? Now we're going to be, depending on how long the chapters are or the books, we're going to see if we can get a couple read. I'm not able to stream quite as late tonight, so up in the air on whether we'll do like a decent stretch of ASMR after the reading. But question, when your back hurts a lot, what do you do? It depends on the level of hurt it's at. But if it's at a lot of hurt, then I have to go lie down. I can't sit up if it's hurting too much. And at that point, I'll probably the worst pain scenario, I'm taking pain meds, I'm putting pain creams on my back, maybe using a heat pad or an ice pack or whatever I need. So, but yeah. Hi, DJ over on the YouTube. Hello, hello. Heating pad. Yeah, heating pad is great. Okay. All right. So, yes, we actually, in the last chapter, got to see what's up with Odysseus, who has been stranded this whole time on an island, basically under the care / imprisonment of Calypso, who was pretending that he was her husband, even though he's like, I have a wife and I want to go home. And she's like, no. And he just hangs out crying all day, and yeah, it was not good. You think he had it pretty good? Dude, she was like assaulting him at night. It's not cool. It's not cool. Anyway, he wants to leave so much that he risks his life in a storm on a raft in the ocean to get away from her and to get home. His raft breaks up because Poseidon hates him, and there's like multiple gods, like some are against him, some are trying to help. Well, mostly it's Poseidon against him. Athena tries to help him, some other sea nymph tries to help him, and he washes up on shore what is the land called? It's the Phaeacians. And for some reason, like he washes up on shore and he just comes out of the bushes like a crazy naked man, covering his dick with a branch. But then he takes a bath, and like Athena gives him like a babe makeover, and suddenly he's like gorgeous and young looking, and the daughter of like the main chief guy is like, oh, okay. And the main chief guy is like, why don't you stay and marry my daughter? And Odysseus is like, yeah, no, I want to go home. And he's like, okay, we'll talk about how to get you home. We are the best seafarers, and we will get you there. Even if all you want to do is sit on your ass the whole voyage, doesn't matter. I don't care. We'll get you home. He did lay it on really thick, yeah. But anyways, that's the TLDR. And we know that his son, Telemachus, is out searching for information from him. His son Telemachus has been to visit Nestor, has been to visit Menelaus, and the suitors that want to marry Penelope, which is Odysseus' wife, want to kill Telemachus because they think he's like meddling, and they want to marry Penelope, and they don't need proof that Odysseus is dead. So that's what's going on. Okay, so if you are reading along, we are starting with book 8, Banquet in the House of Alcinous, the Games. So, all right. Moving a couple things around. There we go. Oh, finally Carrot over in the YouTube. Yay. Hi, Mix Boy. This is awesome. There's a whole 4 of you over there. Heck yeah. High five. Okay. Now, when the child of morning, rosy-fingered... No, I'm sorry. Okay, let me start over. Book 8, Banquet in the House of Alcinous, the Games. Now, when the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared. Old King Bear, thank you for the 300 biddies. Before you go, ease your back. Oof, I hope your back feels better soon. Thank you so much. All right. Now, when when the child of morning, rosy-fingered Dawn, appeared. Alcinous and Odysseus both rose, and Alcinous led the way to the Phaeacian place of assembly, which was near the ships. When they got there, they sat down side by side on a seat of polished stone, while Athena took the form of one of Alcinous's servants, and went round the town in order to help Odysseus to get home. Why is she always in disguise? Hold on, I forgot to put this on. She went up to the citizens, man by man, and said, "Aldermen and town councillors of the Phaeacians, come to the assembly, all of you, and listen to the stranger who has just come off a long voyage to the house of King Alcinous. He looks like an immortal god." With these words, she made them all want to come. And they flocked to the assembly till seats and standing room were alike crowded. Everyone was struck with the appearance of Odysseus, for Athena had beautified him about the head and shoulders, making him look taller and stouter than he really was, that he might impress the Phaeacians favorably as being a very remarkable man, and might come off well in the many trials of skill to which they would challenge him. Then, when they were got together, Alcinous spoke. "Hear me," said he, "aldermen and town councillors of the Phaeacians, that I may speak, even as I am minded. This stranger, whoever he may be," they haven't asked him his name yet, by the way. They've hosted him and said, "Come on in." They have not even said, "Bro, what's your name? What should we call you?" I feel like that's not too invasive a question to ask someone. Anyway. "This stranger, whoever he may be, has found his way to my house from somewhere or other, either east or west. He wants an escort and wishes to have the matter settled. Let us then get one for him. Let us then get one ready for him, as we have done for others before him. Indeed, no one who ever came to my house has been able to complain of me for not speeding on his way soon enough. Let us draw a ship into the sea, one that has never yet made a voyage, and man her with 52 of our smartest young sailors. Then, when you have made fast your oars, each by his own seat, leave the ship and come to my house to prepare a feast. I will find you in everything. I am giving these instructions to the young men who will form the crew, for as regards you aldermen and town councillors, you will join me in entertaining our guest in the cloisters. I can take no excuses, and we will have Demodocus to sing to us, for there is no bard like him, whatever he may choose to sing about." Hi, Nine Butts. Alcinous then led the way, and the others followed after, while a servant went to fetch Demodocus. The 52 picked oarsmen went to the seashore as they had been told, and when they got there, they drew the ship into the water, got her mast and sails inside her, bound the oars to the thole pins and twisted thongs of leather, all in due course, and spread the white sails aloft. They moored the vessel a little way out from land, and then came on shore and went to the house of King Alcinous. The outhouses, yards, and all the precincts were filled with crowds of men, in great multitudes, both old and young, and Alcinous killed them 12 sheep, 8 full-grown pigs, and 2 oxen. These they skinned and dressed, so as to provide a magnificent banquet. I want to make a note for those not reading along on the page. It's not the outhouses, it's the out space houses, which I'm guessing are just like buildings near the, like, I don't know, little public buildings. I don't think the men are crowding the outhouses. It's not like that. A servant presently led in the famous bard, Demodocus, whom the muse had dearly loved, but to whom she had given both good and evil, for though she had endowed him with a divine gift of song, she had robbed him of his eyesight. Pontanus set a seat for him among the guests, leaning it up against a bearing post. He hung the lyre for him on a peg over his head and showed him where he was to feel for it with his hands. He also set a fair table with a basket of victuals by his side and a cup of wine from which he might drink whenever he was so disposed. This is not just community chili night. They're slaughtering a lot of animals. So, I don't know. Okay. The company then laid their hands upon the good things that were before them, but as soon as they had had enough to eat and drink, the muse inspired Demodocus to sing the feats of heroes, and, more especially, a matter that was then in the mouths of all men, to wit, the quarrel between Odysseus and Achilles, and the fierce words that they had heaped on one another as they sat together at a banquet. But Agamemnon was glad when he heard the chieftains quarreling with one another, for Apollo had foretold him this at Pytho, when he crossed the stone floor to consult the oracle. Here was the beginning of the evil that, by the will of Zeus, fell both upon Danaans and Trojans. Hi, Jane, over on the YouTube. Thus sang the bard, but Odysseus drew his purple mantle over his head and covered his face, for he was ashamed to let the Phaeacians see that he was weeping. When the bard left off singing, he wiped the tears from his eyes, uncovered his face, and, taking his cup, made a drink offering to the gods. But when the Phaeacians pressed Demodocus to sing further, for they delighted in his lays, then Odysseus again drew his mantle over his head and wept bitterly. No one noticed his distress except Alcinous, who was sitting near him and heard the heavy sighs that he was heaving. So he at once said, "Aldermen and town councillors of the Phaeacians, we have had enough now, both of the feast and of the minstrelsy that is its due accompaniment. Let us proceed, therefore, to the athletic sports, so that our guest on his return home may be able to tell his friends how much we surpass all other nations as boxers, wrestlers, jumpers, and runners." Hi, Ubercoo. Thank you for the 100 biddies. Hello, hello. How's it going? Also, thank you to the people that have subbed over on the YouTube. Thank you. Thank you so much. With these words, he led the way, and the others followed after. A servant hung Demodocus's lyre on its peg for him, and led him out of the cloister, and set him on the same way as that along with... Oh my god, I'm messing up so much. I'm so sorry. Okay. And set him on the same way as that along which all the chief men of the Phaeacians were going to see the sports. A crowd of several thousands of people followed them, and there were many excellent competitors for all the prizes. Acronius, Ochialus, Elatrius, Nautius, Primnius, Encialis, Aretmius, Pontius, Prorius, Thoon, Anabasinius, and Amphialus, son of Polinius, son of Tecton. There was also Euryalus, son of Naubolus, who was like Ares himself and was the best-looking man among the Phaeacians, except Laodamas. 3 sons of Alcinous, Laodamas, Helios, and Clytonius, competed also. The foot races came first. The course was set out for them from the starting post, and they raised a dust upon the plain as they all flew forward at the same moment. Clytonius came in first by a long way. He left everyone else behind him by the length of the furrow that a couple of mules can plow in a fallow field. They then turned to the painful art of wrestling, and here Euryalus proved to be the best man. Amphialus excelled all the others in jumping, while at throwing the disc there was no one who could approach Elatrius. Alcinous' son, Laodamas, was the best boxer, and he it was who presently said, when they had all been diverted with the games, "Let us ask the stranger whether he excels in any of these sports. He seems very powerfully built. His thighs, calves, hands, and neck are of prodigious strength, nor is he at all old. But he has suffered much lately, and there is nothing like the sea for making havoc with a man, no matter how strong he is." "You are quite right, Laodamas," replied Euryalus. "Go up to your guest, and speak to him about it yourself." When Laodamas heard this, he made his way into the middle of the crowd and said to Odysseus, "I hope, sir, that you will enter yourself for some one or other of our competitions, if you are skilled in any of them, and you must have gone in for many a one before now. Oh, there is nothing that does anyone so much credit all his life long as the showing himself a proper man with his hands and feet. Have a try, therefore, at something, and banish all sorrow from your mind. Your return home will not be long delayed, for the ship is already drawn into the water, and the crew is found." Odysseus answered, "Laodamas, why do you taunt me in this way? My mind is set rather on cares than contests. I have been through infinite trouble, and am come among you now as a suppliant, praying your king and people to further me on my return home." "Hi, Moonstar. Hello." "Oh, thank you." Then Euryalus reviled him outright and said, "I gather, then, that you are unskilled in any of the many sports that men generally delight in. I suppose you are one of those grasping traders that go about in ships as captains or merchants, and who think of nothing but of their outward frights and homeward cargoes. There does not seem to be much of the athlete about you." "For shame, sir," answered Odysseus fiercely. "You are an insolent fellow. So true is it that the gods do not grace all men alike in speech, person, and understanding. One man may be of weak presence, but heaven has adorned this with such a good conversation that he charms every one who sees him. His honeyed moderation carries his hearers with him, so that he is leader in all assemblies of his fellows, and wherever he goes he is looked up to. Another may be as handsome as a god, but his good looks are not crowned with discretion. This is your case. Now, no god could make a finer looking fellow than you are, but you are a fool. Your ill-judged remarks have made me exceedingly angry, and you are quite mistaken, for I excel in a great many athletic exercises. Indeed, so long as I had youth and strength, I was among the first athletes of the age. Now, however, I am worn out by labor and sorrow, for I have gone through much, both on the field of battle and by the waves of the weary sea. Still, In spite of all this, I will compete, for your taunts have stung me to the quick. Why wouldn't he just be like, bro, I'm Odysseus? Fuck off. So he hurried up, without even taking his cloak off, and seized a disc, larger, more massive, and much heavier than those used by the Phaeacians when disc throwing among themselves. Then, swinging it back, he threw it from his brawny hand, and it made a humming sound in the air as he did so. The Phaeacians quailed beneath the rushing of its flight as it sped gracefully from his hand and flew beyond any mark that had been made yet. So bro is really good at ultimate frisbee, is what I'm hearing. Athena, in the form of a man, came and marked the place where it had fallen. "A blind man, sir," said she, "could easily tell your mark by groping for it. It is so far ahead of any other. You may make your mind easy about this contest, for no Phaeacian can come near to such a throw as yours." Hi, Butler. Like, at first I was like, oh, this is giving kind of Xena vibes, you know? But her chakram is like if you took a discus but made it a boomerang, it always comes back. This one is it's just a frisbee. Yeah. Yeah, Athena does like to disguise herself as other characters. Most of them seem to be men. But she did disguise herself as a little girl as well. Am I on desktop? Are you asking me, Jane? Right. Odysseus was glad when he found he had a friend among the lookers on, so he began to speak more pleasantly. "Young men," said he, "come up to that throw if you can, and I will throw another disc as heavy, or even heavier. If anyone wants to have a bout with me, let him come on, for I am exceedingly angry. I will box, wrestle, or run, I do not care what it is, with any man of you all, except Laodamas, but not with him, because I am his guest, and one cannot compete with one's own personal friend. At least, I do not think it is prudent or a sensible thing for a guest to challenge his host's family at any game, especially when he is in a foreign country, or he will cut the ground from under his feet if he does. But I make no exception as regards anyone else, for I want to have the matter out and know which is the best man. I am a good hand at every kind of athletic sport known among mankind. I am an excellent archer. In battle, I am always the first to bring a man down with my arrow, no matter how many more are taking aim at him alongside of me. Philoctetes was the only man who could shoot better than I could when we Achaeans were before Troy, and in practice I far excel everyone else in the whole world, of those who still eat bread upon the face of the earth. But I should not like to shoot against the mighty dead, such as Heracles, or Eurytus the Acalian, men who could shoot against the gods themselves. Well, this in fact was how Eurytus came prematurely by his end, for Apollo was angry with him and killed him because he challenged him as an archer. Well, I can throw a dart farther than anyone else can shoot an arrow. Running is the only point in respect of which I am afraid some of the Phaeacians might beat me, for I have been brought down very low at sea. My provisions ran short, and therefore I am still weak." They all held their peace, except King Alcinous, who began. "Sir, we've had much pleasure in hearing all that you have told us, from which I understand that you are willing to show your prowess, as having been displeased with some insolent remarks that have been made to you by one of our athletes, and which could never have been uttered by anyone who knows how to talk with propriety. I hope you will apprehend my meaning, and will explain to any one of your chief men who may be dining with yourself and your family when you get home." So I'm just going to wait for this siren to go by. Maria Kitty, hello, hello. Your head has griefed the wrong Call of Duty lobby. Hello, hello. Alright, oops. Oh, okay. I hope you will apprehend my meaning, and will explain to any one of your chief men who may be dining with yourself and your family when you get home, that we have an hereditary aptitude for accomplishments of all kinds. We're not particularly remarkable for our boxing, nor yet as wrestlers, but we are singularly fleet of foot and are excellent sailors. We're extremely fond of good dinners, music, and dancing. We also like frequent changes of linen, warm baths, and good beds. So now, please, some of you who are the best dancers, set about dancing, that our guest on his return home may be able to tell his friends how much we surpass all other nations as sailors, runners, dancers, and minstrels. Demodocus has left his lyre at my house, so run, some one or other of you, and fetch it for him. On this, a servant hurried off to bring the lyre from the king's house, and the 9 men who had been chosen as stewards stood forward. It was their business to manage everything connected with the sports, so they made the ground smooth and marked a wide space for the dancers. Presently, the servant came back with Demodocus's lyre, and he took his place in the midst of them, whereon the best young dancers in the town began to foot and trip it so nimbly that Odysseus was delighted with the merry twinkling of their feet. What is this? None good. Are you asking what we're reading? If you're asking what we're reading, it is the Odyssey. Oh, his speech. Oh, okay. Yeah. King Alcinous' speech was obviously made to, like, do some damage control after someone was really rude to his guest. The Sapphic Subaru. I mean, is there any other kind of Subaru? Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Hello. Yeah, he's basically like, okay, enough of your games, you boastful young men. Kind of sounds like our guest. First off, don't be challenging our guest and being rude. But also, it sounds like our guest can kick your ass at these things. And he's kind of saying, like, no, I'm not, like, look, we're fine at those things, but let's do the things we're actually really good at. He was talking a lot of shit. Those were 2 different men, though. It was one of the younger guys was, like, talking smack and being like, come on, dude, come compete. And then Odysseus is like, you insolent pup, I'll have you know. And then Alcinous, who's the king and the host, was like, whoa. Okay, first of all, you're rude. Odysseus is my guest. Let's dance. I mean, the host said that they were singular among dancing and running and music and sailing. Cat official, hello, hi Cat, welcome in. Hi Neville. Yes, you had to translate the original Latin. What? You can speak Latin? That's very cool. Well, it could be that he changed his mind after hearing Odysseus's speech. Either way, it's damage control. On this, a servant hurried off to bring the lyre from the king's house, and the 9 men who had been chosen as stewards stood forward. It was their business to manage everything connected with the sports, so they made the ground smooth and marked a wide space for the dancers. Presently, the servant came back with Demodocus's lyre, and he took his place in the midst of them, whereon the best young dancers in the town— oh, I read this already, sorry. Okay. Meanwhile, the bard began to sing the loves of Ares and Aphrodite. and how they first began their intrigue in the house of Hephaestus. Ares made Aphrodite many presents and defiled King Hephaestus's marriage bed. So the sun, who saw what they were about, told Hephaestus. Hephaestus was very angry when he heard such dreadful news, so he went to his smithy, brooding mischief, got his great anvil into its place, and began to forge some chains, which none could either unloose or break, so that they might stay there in that place. When he had finished his snare, he went into his bedroom and festooned the bedposts all over with chains like cobwebs. He also let many hang down from the great beam of the ceiling. Not even a god could see them, so fine and subtle were they. As soon as he had spread the chains all over the bed, he made as though he were setting out for the fair state of Lemnos, which of all the places in the world was the one he was most fond of. But Ares kept no blind lookout, and as soon as he saw him start, hurried off to his house, burning with love for Aphrodite. Now, Aphrodite was just come in from a visit to her father, Zeus, and was about sitting down when Ares came inside the house and said, as he took her hand in his own, "Let us go to the couch of Hephaestus. He is not at home, but has gone off to Lemnos among the Sintians." His speech is barbarous. Well, she was nothing loath, so they went to the couch to take their rest, whereon they were caught in the toils which cunning Hephaestus had spread for them, and could neither get up nor stir hand or foot, but found too late that they were in a trap. Then Hephaestus came up to them, for he had turned back before reaching Lemnos, when his scout, the sun, told him what was going on. Oh, he was in a furious passion, and stood in the vestibule, making a dreadful noise as he shouted to all the gods. "Father Zeus," he cried, "and all you other blessed gods who live forever, come here and see the ridiculous and disgraceful sight that I will show you. Zeus's daughter Aphrodite is always dishonoring me because I am lame. She is in love with Ares, who is handsome and clean built, whereas I am a cripple. But my parents are to blame for that, not I. They ought never to have begotten me." Alright, get it all out, big guy. This seems like these are old hurts, man. These are old wounds. "Come and see the pair together asleep on my bed. Oh, it makes me furious to look at them. They're very fond of one another, but I do not think they will lie there longer than they can help, nor do I think that they will sleep much. There, however, they shall stay till her father has repaid me the sum I gave him for his baggage of a daughter, who is fair but not honest." Damn. So wait, isn't Ares also the son of Zeus, or does Ares have different parents? Like, aren't Aphrodite and Ares like siblings, or am I wrong? Also, I thought Hephaestus was a god. Or is this a story of how he becomes a god? Is this... They're all Zeus's children? Alright, okay. On this, the gods gathered to the house of Hephaestus. Earth encircling Poseidon came, and Hermes, the bringer of luck, and King Apollo. But the goddesses stayed at home, all of them, for shame. Why are they ashamed? They didn't do anything. Then the givers of all good things stood in the doorway, and the blessed gods roared with inextinguishable laughter as they saw how cunning Hephaestus had been, whereon one would turn towards his neighbors, saying, "Ill deeds do not prosper, and the weak confound the strong. See how limping Hephaestus lame as he is called Ares, who is the fleetest god in heaven. And now Ares will be cast in heavy damages. Thus did they converse. But King Apollo said to Hermes, Messenger Hermes, giver of good things, you would not care how strong the chains were, would you, if you could sleep with Aphrodite? King Apollo, answered Hermes, I only wish I might get the chance, though there were 3 times as many chains. And you might look on, all of you, gods and goddesses, but I would sleep with her, if I could. And the immortal gods burst out laughing as they heard him. But Poseidon took it all seriously, and kept on imploring Hephaestus to set Ares free again. Let him go, he cried, and I will undertake, as you require, that he shall pay you all the damages that are held reasonable among the immortal gods. Ancient wood meme. Ares and Hephaestus are full brothers. Like, what the fuck, man? Do not, replied Hephaestus, ask me to do this. A bad man's bond is bad security. What remedy should I enforce against you if Ares should go away and leave his debts behind him along with his chains? Hephaestus, said Poseidon, if Ares goes away without paying his damages, I will pay you myself. So Hephaestus answered, in this case I cannot and must not refuse you. Thereon he loosed the bonds that bound them, and as soon as they were free, they scampered off, Ares to Thrace, and laughter-loving Aphrodite to Cyprus and Paphos, where is her grove and her altar fragrant with burnt offerings. Here the Graces bathed her and anointed her with oil of ambrosia, such as the immortal gods make use of, and they clothed her in raiment of the most enchanting beauty. Hi, Floral. Then Alcinous told Laodamas and Helios to dance alone, for there was no one to compete with them. So they took a red ball, which Polybus had made for them, and one of them bent himself backwards and threw it up towards the clouds, while the other jumped from off the ground and caught it with ease before it came down again. When they had done throwing the ball straight up into the air, they began to dance, and at the same time kept on throwing it backwards and forwards to one another, while all the young men in the ring applauded and made a great stamping with their feet. Then Odysseus said, King Alcinous, you said your people were the nimblest dancers in the world, and indeed, they have proved themselves to be so. I was astonished as I saw them. The king was delighted at this, and exclaimed to the Phaeacians, Aldermen and town councillors, our guest seems to be a person of singular judgment. Let us give him such proof of our hospitality as he may reasonably expect. There are 12 chief men among you, and, counting myself, there are 13. Contribute, each of you, a clean cloak, a shirt, and a talent of fine gold. Let us give him all this in a lump down at once, so that when he gets his supper, he may do so with a light heart. As for Euryalus, he will have to make a formal apology, and a present too, for he has been rude. Zeus got kicked in the nuts sometime before Hephaestus was conceived. That's why he looks that way. Wait, is that true? Okay, Carrot. Hope you have a good rest of your night. Thanks for hanging out. And thank you for gifting a sub to Alyssa. Thank you so much, Carrot. Have a wonderful rest of your night. No? Okay, well, I don't know, man. It's plausible. Man, I was talking to a friend about, like, you know, kind of like, oh, if you had to have, like, a patron god kind of deal, who would be your patron god? And I was asking, like, who would be my patron god? And they were like, Hephaestus. And I was like, the smith? Why? And they were like, because he's a cripple. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. First of all, how dare you? Yeah. Okay, bye. Oh, okay. Wordsmith, well, that's a lot kinder, Tyrane. I like your version more. Thus did he speak. The others, all of them, applauded his saying and sent their servants to fetch the presents. Then Euryalus said, King Alcinous, I will give the stranger all the satisfaction you require. He shall have my sword, which is of bronze, all but the hilt, which is of silver. I will also give him the scabbard of newly sawn ivory into which it fits. It will be worth a great deal to him. As he spoke, he placed the sword in the hands of Odysseus and said, Good luck to you, father stranger. If anything has been said amiss, may the winds blow it away with them, and may heaven grant you a safe return. For I understand you have been long away from home, and have gone through much hardship. To which Odysseus answered, Good luck to you too, my friend, and may the gods grant you every happiness. I hope you will not miss the sword you have given me, along with your apology. With these words, he girded the sword about his shoulders. He's like, but I'm still gonna take it. And towards sundown, the presents began to make their appearance, as the servants of the donors kept bringing them to the house of King Alcinous. Here his sons received them and placed them under their mother's charge. Then Alcinous led the way to the house and bade his guests take their seats. Hi, Scott. How's it going? Normally I'd refuse such a gift, but you were really rude, so. Yours would be Bacchus. There could be worse. Yeah. Lots of music and men being torn to pieces. Wife, said he, turning to Queen Arete, go fetch the best chest we have, and put a clean cloak and shirt in it. Also set a copper on the fire, and heat some water. Our guest will take a warm bath. See also to the careful packing of the presents that the noble Phaeacians have made him. He will thus better enjoy both his supper and the singing that will follow. I shall myself give him this golden goblet, which is of exquisite workmanship, that he may be reminded of me for the rest of his life, whenever he makes a drink offering to Zeus or to any of the gods. Then Arete told her maids to set a large tripod upon the fire as fast as they could, whereon they set a tripod full of bath water onto a clear fire. They threw on sticks to make it blaze, and the water became hot as the flame played about the belly of the tripod. Meanwhile, Arete brought a magnificent chest from her own room, and inside it she packed all the beautiful presents of gold and raiment which the Phaeacians had brought. Lastly, she added a cloak and a good shirt from Alcinous, and said to Odysseus, See to the lid yourself, and have the whole bound round at once, for fear anyone should rob you by the way when you are asleep in your ship. Hi, Pugs. Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Hello. Yakanono on the YouTube. When Odysseus heard this, he put the lid on the chest and made it fast with a bond that Circe had taught him. He had done so before an upper servant told him to come to the bath and wash himself. He was very glad of a warm bath, for he had had no one to wait upon him ever since he left the house of Calypso, who, as long as he remained with her, had taken as good care of him as though he had been a god. When the servants had done washing and anointing him with oil, and had given him a clean cloak and shirt, he left the bathroom and joined the guests who were sitting over their wine. Lovely Nausicaa stood by one of the bearing posts supporting the roof of the cloister, and admired him as she saw him pass. "Farewell, stranger," said she. "Do not forget me when you are safe at home again, for it is to me first that you owe a ransom for having saved your life." And Odysseus said, "Nausicaa, daughter of great Alcinous, may Zeus, the mighty husband of Hera, grant that I may reach my home. So shall I bless you as my guardian angel all my days, for it was you who saved me." Good night, Buddha. Good night, good night. When he had said this, he seated himself beside Alcinous. Supper was then served, and the wine was mixed for drinking. This is a really, I feel like half this chapter could just be cut out, you know? Like, there's not to argue with one of the biggest classics in all of history, in all of literature. I feel like this scene could be tightened up a little bit. I don't know. When he had said this, he seated himself beside Alcinous. Supper was then served, and the wine was mixed for drinking. A servant led in the favorite bard, Demodocus, and set him in the midst of the company, near one of the bearing posts supporting the cloister, that he might lean against it. Then Odysseus cut off a piece of roast pork with plenty of fat, for there was abundance left on the joint, and said to the servant, Take this piece of pork over to Demodocus, and tell him to eat it, for all the pain his lays may cause me, I will salute him nonetheless. Bards are honored and respected throughout the world, for the muse teaches them their songs and loves them. Side notes are important. The servant carried the pork in his fingers over to Demodocus, who took it and was very much pleased. They then laid their hands on the good things that were before them, and as soon as they had had to eat and drink, Odysseus said to Demodocus, Demodocus, there is no one in the world whom I admire more than I do you. You must have studied under the Muse, Zeus's daughter, and under Apollo, so accurately do you sing the return of the Achaeans with all their sufferings and adventures. If you were not there yourself, you must have heard it all from someone who was. Now, however, change your song and tell us of the wooden horse which Epius? He's just the epiest. He's the epiest. Okay, well, I'm seeing it here with a slightly different spelling. Oops. It's spelled slightly differently in this list. Epius. Okay, alright. Now, however, change your song and tell us of the wooden horse which Epius made with the assistance of Athena, and which Odysseus got by stratagem into the fort of Troy, after frighting it with the men who afterward sacked the city. If you will sing this tale aright, I will tell all the world how magnificently heaven has endowed you. The bard, inspired of heaven, took up the story at the point where some of the Argives set fire to their tents and sailed away, while others, hidden within the horse, were waiting with Odysseus in the Trojan place of assembly. For the Trojans themselves had drawn the horse into their fortress, and it stood there, while they sat in council round it, and were in 3 minds as to what they should do. Some were for breaking it up then and there. Others would have it dragged to the top of the rock on which the fortress stood, and then thrown down the precipice, while yet others were for letting it remain as an offering and propitiation for the gods. And this was how they settled it in the end, for the city was doomed when it took in that horse, within which were all the bravest of the Argives. Wait, am I saying that right? It is Argives, right? Or is it Argives? Argives? No, it is Argives. Okay. Within which were all the bravest of the Argives, waiting to bring death and destruction on the Trojans. Anon he sang how the sons of the Achaeans issued from the horse and sacked the town, breaking out from their ambuscade. He sang how they overran the city hither and thither and ravaged it, and how Odysseus went raging like Ares, along with Menelaus, to the house of Deiphobus. It was there that the fight raged most furiously. Nevertheless, by Athena's help, he was victorious. All this he told, but Odysseus was overcome as he heard him, and his cheeks were wet with tears. He wept as a woman weeps when she throws herself on the body of her husband who has fallen before his own city and people, fighting bravely in defense of his home and children. She screams aloud and flings her arms about him as he lies gasping for breath and dying. But her enemies beat her from behind about the back and shoulders and carry her off into slavery, to a life of labor and sorrow, and the beauty fades from her cheeks. Even so piteously did Odysseus weep, but none of those present perceived his tears except Alcinous. I'm sorry, he was wailing and screaming, and no one perceived his tears? He's killed everyone. He took some of Helen's herbs and spiked all the wine. Okay. Even so piteously. What's that about beauty fading? I don't know, it's just random misogyny that plays no part in the story. It's like describing a certain kind of weeping. Okay. But did you know that then she becomes a slave and becomes ugly? That has nothing to do with the kind of crying. This is unnecessary. Okay, alright. Even so piteously did Odysseus weep, but none of those present perceived his tears except Alcinous, who was sitting near him and could hear the sobs and sighs that he was heaving. The king, therefore, at once rose and said, "Aldermen and town councillors for the Phaeacians, let Demodocus cease his song, for there are those present who do not seem to like it. From the moment that we had done supper and Demodocus began to sing, our guest has been all the time groaning and lamenting. He is evidently in great trouble, so let the bard leave off, that we may all enjoy ourselves, hosts and guest alike." What? The zesty spinster? Holy shit. Spinster? Thank you for the $50 tip. Holy shit. Thank you. That was incredibly unexpected. thank you so much. Thank you so, so much. If you are still around when we wrap up the reading portion, if you would like a name trace or anything at the end of stream, I would be so, so happy to do that for you. Hi, Spinster. Thank you so much. Holy moly. Didn't even know you could do that on Twitch. Yet there's, I mean, it's not... If you scroll down a little bit, and you click on tips, that's where it is in my like about me page. It's like a PayPal tip. Yeah. Thank you so much. Holy moly, that that's crazy. That's I'm all befuddled now. That's incredibly generous and so, so kind. Thank you, thank you. Okay. All right. Befuddled? Yeah. Fabulously befuddled, yeah. Okay. He is evidently in great trouble. So let the bard leave off, that we may all enjoy ourselves, hosts and guest alike. This will be much more as it should be, for all these festivities, with the escort and the presents that we are making with so much goodwill, are wholly in his honor, and anyone with even a moderate amount of right feeling knows that he ought to treat a guest and a suppliant as though he were his own brother. Therefore, sir, do you on your part affect no more concealment, nor reserve in the matter about which I shall ask you. It will be more polite in you to give me a plain answer. Tell me the name by which your father and mother over yonder used to call you, and by which you were known among your neighbors and fellow citizens. There is no one, neither rich nor poor, who is absolutely without any name whatever, for people's fathers and mothers give them names as soon as they are born. Tell me also your country, nation, and city, that our ships may shape their purpose accordingly and take you there. For the Phaeacians have no pilots, their vessels have no rudders as those of other nations have, but the ships themselves understand what it is that we are thinking about and want. They know all the cities and countries in the whole world, and can traverse the sea just as well, even when it is covered with mist and cloud, so that there is no danger of being wrecked or coming to any harm. I honestly can't tell if he's being literal or metaphorical here. I don't know if he's saying they have actual enchanted boats, or if he's saying that the sailors are so good it's as if the ships can read their minds. I'm guessing it's metaphor, but you never know with stories like this. You think actual magic boat? Still, I do remember hearing my father say that Poseidon was angry with us for being too easygoing in the matter of giving people escorts. He said that one of these days he should wreck a ship of ours as it was returning from having escorted someone, and bury our city under a high mountain. This is what my father used to say, but whether the god will carry out his threat or no is a matter which he will decide for himself. I mean, Odysseus has also told them that Poseidon tried to kill him. So they are taking a risk with this. And now, tell me and tell me true. Where have you been wandering, and in what countries have you traveled? Tell us of the peoples themselves and of their cities. Who were hostile, savage, and uncivilized, and who, on the other hand, hospitable and humane? Tell us also why you are made so unhappy on hearing about the return of the Argive Danans from Troy. The gods arranged all this and sent them their misfortunes in order that future generations might have something to sing about. Did you lose some brave kinsmen? Did you lose some brave kinsmen of your wife's when you were before Troy? A son-in-law or father-in-law, which are the nearest relations a man has outside of his own flesh and blood? Or was it some brave and kindly-natured comrade? For a good friend is as dear to a man as his own brother. End of chapter. Poseidon was a real loser. He had a gambling problem, was behind on child support. Oh man. Alright, Odysseus is about to drop a bomb on them. I think we can jump right into the next chapter if you guys are up for that. Hi, Jeff. We can't leave it on this now. We need to see. Well, let me take a peek and just double check how long this chapter is, but I would like to read one more. Yeah, let's read one more chapter tonight. How's it going? So, yeah, you know, it's okay. Reminder for those on Twitch that we are also streaming this on YouTube. It's the first link in that comment there, just the @Faolkor one. If you're able to open that in an additional window, even if you're, you know, chatting on Twitch, if you're able to open that up, that really helps with the watch hours. And if you're able to subscribe and drop a like, you know, and even like after the stream ends, dropping a like, those things all really help to help hit the partner goal. All right. Yay. All right, let's read the next thing. I'll just do a chair stretch. Oh. Ooh. So if you're following along, and again, it is pinned in both chats and also in the description box over on YouTube. If you would like to read along, we're about to start Book 9. All right. Book 9. Odysseus declares himself and begins his story. The Psychons? Hold on. Psychons? Psychonies? It's not spelt with an E in this, but I can say Psychonies. Litophagy? Psychonies? Litophagy. I don't see that in the pronunciation, but litophagy sounds litophagi, I think, and cyclopes, aka Cyclops. Okay. It's long, Leia. It is an epic, yeah. It is truly epic. Alright. Book 9. Odysseus declares himself and begins his story. I already forgot how to say, is it Psychonies? Is it really epic? In the classical sense of the word, yeah, absolutely. I don't know what is wrong with this this page that has pronunciation. If you play it once, you have to refresh the page before you can play it. Psychonies, before you can play it again. Okay. The Psychonies, litophagi, and Cyclopes. And Odysseus answered, King Alcinous, it is a good thing to hear a bard with such a divine voice as this man has. There is nothing better or more delightful than when a whole people make merry together, with the guests sitting orderly to listen, for the table is loaded with bread and meats, and the cupbearer draws wine and fills his cup for every man. This is indeed as fair a sight as a man can see. Now, however, since you are inclined to ask the story of my sorrows and rekindle my own sad memories in respect of them, I do not know how to begin, nor yet how to continue and conclude my tale, for the hand of heaven has been laid heavily upon me. Firstly, then, I will tell you my name, that you too may know it. And one day, if I outlive this time of sorrow, may become my guests, though I live so far away from all of you. I am Odysseus, son of Laertes, renowned among mankind for all manner of subtlety, so that my fame ascends to heaven. I live in Ithaca, where there is a high mountain called Neritum, covered with forests, and not far from it there is a group of islands very near to one another, Dulichium, Sami, and the wooded island of Zacynthus. It lies squat on the horizon, all highest up in the sea towards the sunset, while the others lie away from it, towards dawn. It is a rugged island, but it breeds brave men, and my eyes know none that they better love to look upon. The goddess, Calypso, kept me with her in her cave, and wanted me to marry her, as did also the cunning Aeaean goddess, Circe, but they could neither of them persuade me, for there is nothing dearer to a man than his own country and his parents, and however splendid a home he may have in a foreign country, if it be far from father or mother, he does not care about it. Now, however, I will tell you of the many hazardous adventures by which Zeus's will I met with on my return from Troy. Rumpelstiltskin. Can you imagine? Like, this is the downside of this kind of story is like, I want to see all their faces when he's like, I'm Odysseus. They did force him, yeah. Which is not okay. This man's been through a lot. When I had set sail thence, the wind took me first to Ismarus, which is the city of the Cyclones. There I sacked the town and put the people to the sword. We took their wives, and also much booty, which we divided equitably amongst us, so that none might have reason to complain. Okay, well, that's a shitty thing to do, Odysseus. I was just, trying to be on your side there, and then you're like, yeah, I just killed a bunch of people and stole their wives, so, everybody's an asshole, is the moral. Okay. I then said that we had better make off at once, but my men, very foolishly, would not obey me. So they stayed there, drinking much wine and killing great numbers of sheep and oxen on the seashore. Meanwhile, the Cicones cried out for help to other Cicones who lived inland. These were more in number and stronger, and they were more skilled in the art of war, for they could fight, either from chariots or on foot as the occasion served. In the morning, therefore, they came, as thick as leaves and bloom in summer, and the hand of heaven was against us, so that we were hard pressed. They set the battle in array near the ships, and the hosts aimed their bronze-shod spears at one another. So long as the day waxed, and it was still morning, we held our own against them, though they were more in number than we. But as the sun went down, towards the time when men loosed their oxen, the Cicones got the better of us, and we lost 6 men from every ship we had, so we got away with those that were left. I appeared this on the YouTube. Hi. Hello, hello. True, Telemachus seems pretty stand up. I mean, he's quite young, so there's still time for him to become an asshole, but you're right, Telemachus seems pretty great. Thence we sailed onward with sorrow in our hearts, but glad to have escaped death, though we had lost our comrades. Nor did we leave till we had thrice invoked each one of the poor fellows who had perished by the hands of the Cicones. Then Zeus raised the north wind against us till it blew a hurricane, so that land and sea were hidden in thick clouds, and night sprang forth out of the heavens. We let the ships run before the gale, but the force of the wind tore our sails to tatters, so we took them down for fear of shipwreck, and rowed our hardest towards the land. There we lay, 2 days and 2 nights, suffering much alike from toil and distress of mind, but on the morning of the 3rd day we again raised our masts, set sail, and took our places, letting the wind and steersman direct our ship. I should have got home at that time unharmed, had not the north wind and the currents been against me, as I was doubling Cape Malea, and set me off my course hard by the island of Cythera. I was driven thence by foul winds for a space of 9 days upon the sea, but on the 10th day we reached the land of the lotus eaters, who live on a food that comes from a kind of flower. Here we landed to take in fresh water, and our crews got their midday meal on the shore near the ships. When they had eaten and drunk, I sent 2 of my company to see what manner of men the people of the place might be, and they had a 3rd man under them. They started at once and went about among the lotus eaters, who did them no hurt, but gave them to eat of the lotus, which was so delicious that those who ate of it left off caring about home, and did not even want to go back and say what had happened to them, but were for staying and munching lotus with the lotus eaters, without thinking further of their return. Nevertheless, though they wept bitterly, I forced them back to the ships, and made them fast under the benches. Then I told the rest to go on board at once, lest any of them should taste of the lotus, and leave off wanting to get home. So they took their places, and smote the grey sea with their oars. Damn, what's this lotus all about? I'm really curious. My lips get so chapped when I read. Okay. We sailed hence, always in much distress, till we came to the land of the lawless and inhuman Cyclopes. Now the Cyclopes neither plant nor plough, but trust in Providence, and live on such wheat, barley, and grapes as grow wild without any kind of tillage, and their wild grapes yield them wine as the sun and the rain may grow them. They have no laws, nor assemblies of the men, but live in caves on the tops of high mountains. Each is lord and master in his family, and they take no account of their neighbors. Now, off their harbor there lives a wooded and fertile island, not quite close to the land of the Cyclopes, but still not far. It is overrun with wild goats that breed there in great numbers and are never disturbed by foot of man, for sportsmen, who as a rule will suffer so much hardship in forest or among mountain precipices, do not go there, nor yet again is it ever ploughed or fed down, but lies a wilderness untilled and unsown from year to year, and has no living thing upon it but only goats. For the Cyclopes have no ships, nor yet shipwrights who could make ships for them. They cannot therefore go from city to city, or sail over the sea to one another's country, as people who have ships can do. If they had had these, they would have colonized the island, for it is a very good one, and would yield everything in due season. Oh, there are meadows that, in some places, come right down to the seashore, well watered and full of luscious grass. Grapes would do there excellently. There is level land for ploughing, and it would always yield heavily at harvest time, for the soil is deep. There is a good harbor, where no cables are wanted, nor yet anchors, nor need a ship be moored, but all one has to do is to beach one's vessel and stay there till the wind becomes fair for putting out to sea again. At the head of the harbor, there is a spring of clear water coming out of a cave, and there are poplars growing all around it. Here we entered, but so dark was the night that some god must have brought us in, for there was nothing whatever to be seen. A thick mist hung all round our ships. Yeah, I know. The moon was hidden behind a mass of clouds, so that no one could have seen the island if he had looked for it. Nor were there any breakers to tell us we were close inshore before we found ourselves upon the land itself. When, however, we had beached the ships, we took down the sails, went ashore, and camped upon the beach till daybreak. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared, we admired the island and wandered all over it, while the nymphs, Zeus's daughters, roused the wild goats, that we might get some meat for our dinner. On this we fetched our spears and bows and arrows from the ships, and, dividing ourselves into 3 bands, began to shoot the goats. Heaven sent us excellent sport. I had 12 ships with me, and each ship got 9 goats, while my own ship had 10. Thus through the livelong day to the going down of the sun, we ate and drank our fill, and we had plenty of wine left, for each one of us had taken many jars full when we had sacked the city of the Cicones, and this had not yet run out. While we were feasting, we kept turning our eyes towards the land of the Cyclopes, which was hard by, and saw the smoke of their stubble fires. We could almost fancy we heard their voices and the bleating of the sheep and the bleating of the sheep and goats. But when the sun went down and it came on dark, we camped down upon the beach, and next morning I called a council. "Stay here, my brave fellows," said I. "All the rest of you, will I go with my ship and exploit these people myself? I want to see if they're uncivilized savages, or a hospitable and humane race." I went on board, bidding my men to do so also, and loosed the hawsers. So they took their places and smote the grey sea with their oars. When we got to the land, which was not far, there, on the face of a cliff near the sea, we saw a great cave, overhung with laurels. There was a station for a great many sheep and goats, and outside there was a large yard, with a high wall round it made of stones built into the ground, and of trees, both pine and oak. This was the abode of a huge monster, who was then away from home shepherding his flocks. Oh, he would have nothing to do with other people, but lived the life of an outlaw. He was a horrid creature, not like a human being at all, but resembling rather some crag that stands out boldly against the sky on the top of a high mountain. I told my men to draw the ship ashore, and stay where they were, all but the 12 best among them, who were to go along with myself. I also took a goat skin of sweet black wine, which had been given me by Marin, son of Euanthes, who was priest of Apollo, the patron god of Ismarus, and lived within the wooded precincts of the temple. When we were sacking the city, we respected him and spared his life, as also his wife and child. So he made me some presents of great value, 7 talents of fine gold, and a bowl of silver, with 12 jars of sweet wine unblended, and of the most exquisite flavor. Not a man nor maid in the house knew about it, but only himself, his wife, and 1 housekeeper. When he drank it, he mixed 20 parts of water to 1 of wine, and yet the fragrance from the mixing bowl was so exquisite that it was impossible to refrain from drinking. I filled a large skin with this wine, and took a wallet full of provisions with me, for my mind misgave me that I might have to deal with some savage who would be of great strength and would respect neither right nor law. Can he be an outlaw if there are no laws? That's a great question. I feel like no, you can't be. Also, I like that they're just out here treating wine like Ribena. Just diluting it 20-1. We soon reached his cave, but he was out shepherding, so we went inside and took stock of all that we could see. His cheese racks were loaded with cheeses, and he had more lambs and kids than his pens could hold. They were kept in separate flocks. First, there were the hoggets. Wait, what are hoggets? I need to know. What are hoggets? A yearling sheep. Okay, in British English, it's a yearling sheep. New Zealand gets more specific about it and says it's a lamb aged between weaning and first shearing. Hoggets with an ETS. You were almost there. I'm pretty sure that would have been the next vowel that you guessed. So. No, 2 G's. Hi, Tasty Terp. Welcome in. Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, hoggets. I thought it was going to be like cute little piggies. But no, it's a lamb that is old enough that it's not sucking on its mama's teat, but not so old that it's been sheared for its wool. That's very specific. Okay. They were kept in separate flocks. First, there were the hoggets, then the oldest of the younger lambs, and lastly, the very young ones, all kept apart from one another. As for his dairy, all the vessels, bowls, and milk pails into which he milked were swimming with whey. When they saw all this, my men begged them to let them first steal some cheeses and make off with them to the ship. They would then return, drive down the lambs and kids, put them on board, and sail away with them. It would have been indeed better if we had done so, but I would not listen to them, for I wanted to see the owner himself, in the hope that he might give me a present. When, however, we saw him, my poor men found him ill to deal with. This is just giving me Skyrim giant vibes, you know? They're very protective about their cows, and they hate it when you steal their cheese. We lit a fire offered some of the cheeses in sacrifice. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to laugh. How does one sacrifice a cheese? Do you just throw it overboard? Like, how does one sacrifice a cheese? Do you eat it? Genuinely. Can their toes be used for alchemy? Cyclops toes? I bet. Melted? You make a fondue. Oh, okay. Offered some of the cheeses inside. I don't know. Okay, not good. Okay. We lit a fire, offered some of the cheeses in sacrifice, ate others of them, and then sat waiting till the Cyclops should come in with his sheep. When he came, he brought in with him a huge load of dry firewood to light the fire for his supper, and this he flung with such a noise onto the floor of his cave that we hid ourselves for fear at the far end of the cavern. Meanwhile, he drove all the ewes inside, as well as the she-goats that he was going to milk, leaving the males, both rams and he-goats, outside in the yards. Then he rolled a huge stone to the mouth of the cave, so huge that 22 strong, four-wheeled wagons would not be enough to draw it from its place against the doorway. When he had so done, he sat down and milked his ewes and goats, all in due course, and then let each of them have her own young.
What is it? Hi, Nimbus. What's up? You okay?
Like, why is he sharing this story? Do you know what I mean? Just be like, I'm Odysseus, I hail from Ithaca. Boom. That he doesn't need to, and he didn't need to be like, then we were all scared and we hid. Like, you can say whatever you want, my man. They literally asked for everything. Yeah, but also the way Alcinous asked, he's like, look, friend, I'm just gonna ask you a really simple question that only needs a super simple answer. I'm sure you'll agree. It's super easy. I just want to know, like, what your name is, but also, like, where you're from and who all your family is and, like, everything you've done in your whole life.
Oh. Oh. Okay. You okay?
He curdled half of the milk and set it aside in wicker strainers, but the other half he poured into bowls that he might drink it for his supper. When he had got through with all his work, he lit the fire, and then caught sight of us, whereon he said, "Strangers, who are you?" Wait, is this what I want a Cyclops voice to be? Hi, Swim. Hello. How's it going? This is a deep issue with studying Greek mythology's methods of worship, because the customs of offering things to the gods were something everyone knew about. There are excruciatingly few written documents about how the offering rituals were. It's the same reason why we don't have a bunch of instructions on how to use a drain plug or a flush toilet. But there were descriptions of, like, when they're sacrificing cattle or whatever, that they kill a cow and then they can eat it as part of their feast, right? The one of them, they went really over the top and they gilded the heifer's horns in gold before they killed her. But you can't kill a cheese. And it very specifically said sacrifice some of the cheeses and ate some of them. So I'm guessing eating the cheese is not how one would sacrifice. Now, I know that in some cultures, a way to do sacrifices was just to throw valuable things, like, in deep water. Right? Like, because you're basically, like, getting rid of it. It could be a special kind of, it could be eating, but, like, with intention. I don't know. I have no idea. Okay.
Strangers, who are you? Where do you sail from? Are you traders? Or do you sail the sea as rovers, with your hands against every man, and every man's hand against you?
We were frightened out of our senses by his loud voice and monstrous form, but I managed to say, "We are Achaeans, on our way home from Troy, but by the will of Zeus and stress of weather, we have been driven far out of our course. We are the people of Agamemnon, son of Atreus, who has won infinite renown throughout the whole world by sacking so great a city and killing so many people. We therefore humbly pray you to show us some hospitality, and otherwise make us such presents as visitors may reasonably expect. May your excellency fear the wrath of heaven, for we are your suppliants, and Zeus takes all respectable travelers under his protection, for he is the avenger of all suppliants and foreigners in distress." To this he gave me but a pitiless answer.
"Stranger," said he, "you are a fool, or else you know nothing of this country. Talk to me indeed about fearing the gods, or shunning their anger. We Cyclopes do not care about Zeus, or any of your blessed gods, for we are ever so much stronger than they. I shall not spare either yourself or your companions out of any regard for Zeus, unless I am in the humor for doing so. And now, tell me where you made your ship fast when you came on shore. Was it round the point, or is she lying straight off the land?"
Is a book about Cyclopes and encyclopedia? Yep, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, they were called encyclopedias because the information in them is so fascinating that you get sucked in really tunnel vision, as if you only have one eye and all you can see is the information in the book. That's a lie. I just made that up. That's not true. It does sound legit. He said this to draw me out, but I was too cunning to be caught in that way, so I answered with a lie. "Poseidon," said I, "sent my ship onto the rocks at the far end of your country, and wrecked it. We were driven on to them from the open sea, but I and those who are with me escaped the jaws of death." I got you good? It sounds plausible, you know? We're talking about small sacrifices, like how someone would say offer a trinket to their local deity in the confines of their home. For example, there are only fragments of the details of the worship of Hestia, the goddess of the home and hearth fire, but it is known that every offering made in one's home, because it was offered through the hearth fire, was simultaneously offered to the desired god, but part of it was also given to Hestia because of the hearth fire. Oh, interesting. It's a lie, but your brain is now stored that as the truth, and you'll be telling everyone from now on. Splendid. Okay. The cruel wretch vouchsafed me not one word of answer, but with a sudden clutch he gripped up 2 of my men at once and dashed them down upon the ground as though they had been puppies. What the fuck are you doing to your puppies, Odysseus? What the hell? What? Odysseus is a puppy kicker. Jesus. Their brains were shed upon the ground, and the earth was wet with their blood, the way you do with puppies. Then he tore them limb from limb and supped upon them. He gobbled them up like a lion in the wilderness, flesh, bones, marrow, and entrails, without leaving anything uneaten, like you do with puppies. As for us, we wept and lifted up our hands to heaven on seeing such a horrid sight, for we did not know what else to do. But when the Cyclops had filled his huge paunch, and had washed down his meal of human flesh with a drink of neat milk, he stretched himself full length upon the ground among his sheep, and went to sleep. I was at first inclined to seize my sword, draw it, drive it into his vitals. But I reflected that if I did, we should all certainly be lost, for we should never be able to shift the stone which the monster had put in front of the door. So we stayed, sobbing and sighing where we were, till morning came. Hi, Devin. It was a shock to me, too. Dude, this Cyclops is so unfussed. He doesn't have to worry. They can't get out. What are they gonna, you know? When the child of morning rosy-fingered dawn appeared, he again lit his fire, milked his goats and ewes, all quite rightly, and then let each have her own young one. As soon as he had got through with all his work, he clutched up 2 more of my men, and began eating them for his morning's meal. Presently, with the utmost ease, he rolled the stone away from the door, and drove out his sheep. But he at once put it back again, as easily as though he were merely clapping the lid onto a quiver full of arrows. As soon as he had done so, he shouted and cried, "Shoo! Shoo!" after his sheep to drive them on to the mountains. So I was left to scheme some way of taking my revenge and covering myself with puppies. No, I'm joking, sorry. And covering myself with glory. In the end, I deemed it would be the best plan to do as follows. The Cyclops had a great club, which was lying near one of the sheep pens. It was of green olive wood, and had been cut. No, and he had cut it, intending to use it for a staff, as soon as it should be dry. It was so huge that we could only compare it to the mast of a 20-oared merchant vessel of large burden, and able to venture out into the open sea. I went up to this club, and cut off about 6 feet of it. I then gave this piece to the men, and told them to fine it evenly off at one end, which they proceeded to do. And lastly, I brought it to a point myself, charring the end in the fire to make it harder. When I had done this, I hid it under dung, which was lying about all over the cave, and told the men to cast lots which of them should venture, along with myself, to lift it and bore it into the monster's eye while he was asleep. The lot fell upon the very 4 whom I should have chosen, and I myself made 5. In the morning, the wretch came back from shepherding and drove his flocks into the cave, this time driving them all inside and not leaving any in the yards. I suppose some fancy must have taken him, or a god must have prompted him to do so. As soon as he had put the stone back to its place against the door, he sat down, milked his ewes and his goats all quite rightly, and then let each have her own young one. When he had got through with all this work, he gripped up 2 more of my men, and made his supper off them. So I went up to him with an ivy-wood bowl of black wine in my hands. "Look here, Cyclops," said I, You have been eating a great deal of man's flesh. So take this and drink some wine, that you may see what kind of liquor we had on board my ship. I was bringing it to you as a drink offering, in the hope that you would take compassion upon me and further me on my way home, whereas all you do is to go on ramping and raving most intolerably. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. How can you expect people to come see you any more if you treat them in this way? Why do you think this Cyclops wants visitors? Like, what has he done so far to indicate that he's hoping he gets more visitors? He then took the cup and drank. He was so delighted with the taste of the wine that he begged me for another bowlful. Godliest father! Oh my goodness, thank you for the resub. 17 months. Oh my goodness. Godliest father, thank you so much. Scoopy, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Godliest father, if you're still around when we wrap up the reading portion, I would, of course, love to do a name trace for you. Hi, Scoopy. Welcome. Alright.
Be so kind, he said, as to give me some more, and tell me your name at once.
Artax, thank you for the 100 biddies. Thank you. Whether you're awake or not. Okay, cool. Sounds good, Banana.
I want to make you a present that you will be glad to have. We have wine even in this country, for our soil grows grapes, and the sun ripens them. But this drinks like nectar and ambrosia, all in one.
I feel like my Cyclops voice is changing a bit. I didn't expect him. I thought he would be a Cyclops of fewer and more stunted words, but I then gave him some more. 3 times did I fill the bowl for him, and 3 times did he drain it without thought or heed. That's racist. What? No. I don't know, man. I didn't think he'd be such a verbose Cyclops. Then Cyclops. Oh dear. Then, when I saw that the wine had got into his head, I said to him, as plausibly as I could, Cyclops, you ask my name and I will tell it you. Give me, therefore, the present you promised me. My name is No Man. That is what my father and mother and my friends have always called me. But the cruel wretch said,
Then I will eat all No Man's comrades before No Man himself, and will keep No Man for the last. This is the present that I will make him.
As he spoke, he reeled and fell sprawling face upwards on the ground. His great neck hung heavily backwards, and a deep sleep took hold upon him. Presently he turned sick, and threw up both wine and the gobbets of human flesh on which he had been gorging. For he was very drunk. Then I thrust the beam of wood far into the embers to heat it, and encouraged my men lest any of them should turn faint-hearted. When the wood, green though it was about to blaze, I drew it out of the fire glowing with heat, and my men gathered round me, for heaven had filled their hearts with courage. We drove the sharp end of the beam into the monster's eye,
and bearing upon it with all my weight, I kept turning it round and round, as though I were boring a hole in a ship's plank with an auger, which 2 men with a wheel and strap can keep on turning as long as they choose. Even thus did we bore the red-hot beam into his eye, till the boiling blood bubbled all over it as we worked it round and round, so that the steam from the burning eyeball scalded his eyelids and eyebrows, and the roots of the eyes sputtered into the fire. As the blacksmith plunges an axe or hatchet into cold water to temper it, for it is this that gives strength to the iron, and it makes a great hiss as he does so, even thus did the Cyclops' eye hiss round the beam of olive wood, and his hideous yells made the cave ring again. We ran away in a fright, but he plucked the beam all besmirched with gore from his eye, and hurled it from him in a frenzy of rage and pain, shouting as he did so to the other Cyclopes, who lived on the bleak headlands near him. So they gathered from all quarters round his cave when they heard him crying, and asked what was the matter with him.
"What ails you, Polyphemus?"
said they.
"That you make such a noise, breaking the stillness of the night, and preventing us from being able to sleep."
I'm doing the Cyclops voices.
"Surely no man is carrying off your sheep. Surely no man is trying to kill you, either by fraud or by force."
The Cyclops' name is Polyphemus? 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 What a fancy name. What a fancy name for a Cyclops. Polyphemus. Polyphemus. Yeah, Polyphemus. I'm a Cyclopsist, I guess. Look, I had some preconceptions. I'm learning a lot. I'm open-minded. Artags, thank you for the 100 biddies. Thank you. Okay, but doesn't Polyphemus sound better than Polyphemus?
But Polyphemus shouted to them from inside the cave, "No man is killing me by fraud. No man is killing me by force." "Then," said they, "if no man is attacking you, you must be ill. When Zeus makes people ill, there is no help for it, and you'd better pray to your father, Poseidon."
Polyphemus. Bit myopic, even against Cyclops. And then they went away, and I laughed inwardly at the success of my clever stratagem. But the Cyclops, groaning and in an agony of pain, felt about with his hands till he found the stone and took it from the door. Then he sat in the doorway and stretched his hands in front of it to catch anyone going out with the sheep, for he thought I might be foolish enough to attempt this. As for myself, I kept on puzzling to think how I could best save my own life and those of my companions. I schemed and schemed, as one who knows that his life depends upon it, for the danger was very great. In the end, I deemed that this plan would be the best. The male sheep were well grown and carried a heavy black fleece. Oh no, are they gonna dress up like sheep? Are they gonna put on some fleece
and pretend to be little sheepies. That's adorable. That's adorable. So I bound them noiselessly in threes together, with some of the withies on which the wicked monster used to sleep. There was to be a man under the middle sheep, and the two on either side were to cover him, so that there were 3 sheep to each man. As for myself, there was a ram finer than any of the others, so I caught hold of him by the back, ensconced myself in the thick wool under his belly, and hung on patiently to his fleece, face upwards, keeping a firm hold on it all the time. I think the goats and sheep must be bigger than normal if a full-grown man is able to, like, hide under the belly. Oh, I hope you had a nice walk, Kizzy King. Okay. Thus, then, did we wait in great fear of mind till morning came. But when the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn appeared, the male sheep hurried out to feed, while the ewes remained bleating about the pens waiting to be milked, for their udders were full to bursting. But their master, in spite of all his pain, felt the backs of all the sheep as they stood upright, without being sharp enough to find out that the men were underneath their bellies. As the ram was going out, last of all, heavy with its fleece and with the weight of my crafty self, Polyphemus laid hold of it and said,
"My good ram, what is it that makes you the last to leave my cave this morning? You are not wont to let the ewes go before you, but lead the mob with a run, whether to flowery mead or bubbling fountain, and are the first to come home again at night. But now, you lag last of all. Is it because you know your master has lost his eye, and are sorry because that wicked no-man and his horrid crew has got him down in his drink and blinded him? But I will have his life yet. If you could understand and talk, you would tell me where the wretch is hiding, and I would dash his brains upon the ground till they flew all over the cave. I should thus have some satisfaction for the harm this no-good no-man has done me."
"Oh, I think he likes his animals." Hi, Crashbox. They're just tucking themselves into some fleecy underbellies. As he spoke, he drove the ram outside, but when we were a little way out from the cave and yards, I first got from under the ram's belly, and then freed my comrades. As for the sheep, which were very fat, by constantly heading in the right direction, we managed to drive them down to the ship. The crew rejoiced greatly at seeing those of us who had escaped death, but wept for the others whom the Cyclops had killed. However, I made signs to them by nodding and frowning that they were to hush their crying, and told them to get all the sheep on board at once and put out to sea. So they went aboard, took their places, and smote the grey sea with their oars. Then, when I had got as far out as my voice would reach, I began to jeer at the Cyclops. Is that necessary or wise, Odysseus? Is that, like...
"Cyclops," said I, "you should have taken better measure of your men before eating up his comrades in your cave. You wretch! Eat up your visitors in your own house. You might have known that your sin would find you out, and now Zeus and the other gods have punished you.
Was it Zeus? It was just Odysseus' plan, right? Oh, he got more and more furious as he heard me, so he tore the top from off a high mountain and flung it just in front of my ship, so that it was within a little of hitting the end of the rudder. Oh, the sea quaked as the rock fell into it, and the wash of the wave it raised carried us back towards the mainland and forced us towards the shore. But I snatched up a long pole and kept the ship off, making signs to my men by nodding my head that they must row for their lives, whereon they laid out with a will. Don't mock the guy. Maddie! Hi, Maddie! Hello. Yes, he did. Hi, Chatty Maddie. Thank you so much for the raid. How was your stream? Did you get some writing done? Welcome in, you guys. When we'd got twice as far as we were before, I was for jeering at the Cyclops again, but the men begged and prayed of me to hold my tongue. "Do not," they exclaimed, "be mad enough to provoke this savage creature further. He has thrown one rock at us already, which drove us back again to the mainland, and we made sure it had been the death of us. If he had then heard any further sound of voices, he would have pounded our heads and our ship's timbers into a jelly with the rugged rocks he would have heaved at us, for he can throw them a long way." Let me try to do something. There we go. Help? Hello? Sorry, guys. My little chat thing in my prompter crashed. Okay. Hello again. You got a whole chapter edited for your first book? That's awesome. Sorry for glaring right at you guys. It wasn't that I was glaring at you guys. I was glaring at the prompter. Okay. But I would not listen to them, and shouted out to him in my rage,
Cyclops! If anyone asks you who it was that put your eye out and spoiled your beauty.
Wait, why am I zoomed in?
And spoiled your beauty, say it was the valiant warrior Odysseus, son of Laertes, who lives in Ithaca.
Bro, that's why? Why? Hi, Mockingjay. That's great. That's, oh my goodness. Yes. That is wonderful news. That's wonderful news. How is that glory to, like, basically invite a Cyclops to your land? Right? Just like... Are you going to bed, Chompy? Good night. On this he groaned and cried out,
Alas, alas, then the old prophecy about me is coming true. There was a prophet here.
Is he just shouting this whole thing out? Okay.
There was a prophet here at one time, a man both brave and of great stature. Telemus, son of Eurymus, who was an excellent seer, and did all the prophesying for the Cyclopes till he grew old. He told me that all this would happen to me some day, and said I should lose my sight by the hand of Odysseus. I have been all along expecting someone of imposing presence and superhuman strength, whereas he turned out to be a little, insignificant weakling who has managed to blind my eye by taking advantage of me in my drink. Come here, then, Odysseus, that I may make you presents to show my hospitality, and urge Poseidon to help you forward on your journey. For Poseidon and I are father and son.
Wait, is this why Poseidon hates him so much? Does it all come down to this? Is this like, or are there multiple reasons?
He, if he so will, shall heal me, which no one else, neither god nor man, can do. Then I said, I wish I could be as sure of killing you outright, and sending you down to the house of Hades, as I am, that it will take more than Poseidon to cure that eye of yours.
There's like a lot of yelling going on here.
On this he lifted up his hands to the firmament of heaven and prayed, saying, Hear me, great Poseidon, if I am indeed your own true begotten son. Grant that Odysseus may never reach his home alive. Or if he must get back to his friends at last, let him do so late and in sore plight after losing all his men. Let him reach his home in another man's ship and find trouble in his house.
Why didn't he just stick with like, don't let him reach his home alive? Why is he like, well, actually he can get there alive, but like the other men have to die first and it has to be in someone else's ship? Like, I don't know. Why create this loophole?
Thus did he pray, and Poseidon heard his prayer. Then he picked up a rock, much larger than the first, swung it aloft, and hurled it with prodigious force. It fell just short of the ship, but was within a little of hitting the end of the rudder. The ship quaked as the rock fell into it, and the wash of the wave it raised drove us onwards on our way towards the shore of the island. When at last we got to the island where we had left the rest of our ships, we found our comrades lamenting us and anxiously awaiting our return. We ran our vessel upon the sands and got out of her onto the seashore. We also landed the Cyclops sheep and divided them equitably amongst us, so that none might have reason to complain. As for the ram, my companions agreed that I should have it as an extra share. So I sacrificed it on the seashore and burned its thigh bones to Zeus, who is the Lord of all. But he heeded not my sacrifice, and only thought how he might destroy both my ships and my comrades. Thus, through the livelong day to the going down of the sun, we feasted our fill on meat and drink. But when the sun went down and it came on dark, we camped upon the beach. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared, I bade my men on board and loosed the hawsers. Then they took their places and smote the grey sea with their oars. So we sailed on, with sorrow in our hearts, but glad to have escaped death, though we had lost our comrades.
End of chapter. Okay, I do actually see the relevance of telling this to these people that have offered to give him a lift home, and also who seem to be like on good terms with Poseidon. For him to be like, yeah, Poseidon hates me and this is why. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, the crazy thing is that all of that, yeah, he would have gotten away without, like, calling down the wrath of Poseidon if he had just sailed away. If he didn't have to, like, jeer at the Cyclops. Pride cometh before the fall. Well, that was a lot. I'm sorry for all the quiet yelling I had to do. The next chapter we're not reading tonight, but it's more of Odysseus telling stories. We still don't even get to see what his host's reaction is that he's freaking Odysseus. We are going to be wrapping up the YouTube stream. We're going to not go for very long on Twitch, but I want to do some name traces for some people. But yeah, being Tuesday, I usually go shorter on Tuesdays because we do an afternoon stream as well that we did earlier today. And also because I have to get up early tomorrow. So, yeah. So, let me just give a little wrap up here on the YouTube. Thank you so much to everyone who has watched on the YouTube. It really helps. If you know you're open to helping a little bit more, then drop in a subscribe if you haven't yet. That's the free option on YouTube. Dropping a like, dropping a comment after we go offline and it just becomes a VOD. Dropping a comment is useful. All things that just help stimulate the content. So, all very helpful. We will be back on Thursday, unless something crazy happens to, change that. We will be back on Thursday night and Sunday night to be reading more of the Odyssey. We will be live for that here on YouTube and, of course, over on Twitch. So, yeah. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you. Okay. Well, we won't be going for much longer on Twitch, but a little bit longer on Twitch. So for now, bye YouTube. Bye YouTube.